So it's that time of year again when people are critiquing if Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Now, you can debate that Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie because it was released in July of 1988. So if that is part of your critique, I'll listen to that. The funny thing is that Beverly Hills Cop was actually released in December 1984. Even though there's no Christmas stuff in it, you could argue it's like, hey, maybe Beverly Hills Cop is actually a Christmas movie because it was actually released in December. I don't know. But I argue that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and I will talk about that and some of the other stuff that came through that film. So first of all, I can argue that Die Hard in its first 10 minutes is more Christmassy than your favorite Hallmark Christmas movie. But Kevin, you can't say that. That's Hallmark. What would Lacey Chabert say? Shout out to Lacey. I will say the same thing to her. It's like, I love you, Lacey, but I'm telling you, Die Hard is more Christmassy. Let's get into it. So first of all, Bruce Willis's character, John McClane, he's going to see his wife in Los Angeles. He's on a flight. He has a giant teddy bear on Christmas Eve. What do people do during the holiday season? They see their loved ones on Christmas Eve. They fly across the country to see the ones that they love. That's check one. Check two. His wife is working for a corporation, and they're having a Christmas party where the head guy is talking about, hey, we had a great year, blah blah blah. That check two. The one thing I miss being a content creator uh, that I don't do now, that I don't work for a company where we have office Christmas parties. I worked as a mail clerk back in the day in the 90s, and the holiday Christmas parties were great because you saw execs and managers and supervisors start drinking, start dancing with people they shouldn't be dancing with because they got married. People kind of sneaking off that you don't see for like a half an hour. Oh, I love the office Christmas party. It's fantastic. But yes, in the film, there's an office Christmas party. Check two. Check three. So at the office Christmas party, Bruce Willis's wife is walking, and some dude is flirting with her because they haven't, because Bruce is in New York and she's there, and she was talking about Rudolph and Frosty and chestnuts. I don't know. Do we talk about those things in July? I don't think so. Check three. Those are three things. And then when Bruce gets picked up by his limo driver, Argyle, they're talking, and then Argyle plays Christmas music, and guess what he plays? Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC. And I forgot. I forgot about that. When I had my list of my favorite Christmas songs, I forgot to have Christmas in Hollis. That would have been in my top 10. So Christmas in Hollis, I think, is a Christmas song. All that happened in the first 10 minutes. So yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's just set in Los Angeles. So case closed. The party done. So let's get into the legacy. So the legacy of that film is fantastic because three things came off of that. First of all, Reginald VelJohnson, he played the cop. He didn't even pop up to like a quarter in. So after that film, Reginald VelJohnson, because he was just a working actor at that point, the film was so popular because the film cost like $28 million to make, and I think it made like $100 and some odd million. It became so popular that led him becoming Father Winslow on Family Matters, which was a spinoff of Perfect Strangers, and it was supposed to be about Perfect Strangers. It was the wife; she was on Perfect Strangers, and they spun her off, and then she gave her the Winslow family, and that was the show. And then Urkel popped up a little bit later, and then became the Steve Urkel show, and it was all that drama. Even though it wasn't Jaleel White's fault, it's just that people gravitated to the Urkel character, right? But because of that, Reginald VelJohnson, he got steady work because of Die Hard. So that's legacy one. Legacy two, Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, man, as Hans Gruber, is one of the greatest villains ever in cinema. And that's a bold statement because there's a lot of great villains. But man, the reason why Hans Gruber was so great is that really Hans Gruber was really a James Bond villain in Die Hard. Because he was so refined, because he had the tailored suit. I love the European suit. Like, when I look at, just sidebar, when I look at coaches overseas and coaches here, I love the European cut. If they all look like they come out of GQ, it's fantastic. But he had the fine suits, and he was all refined when he talked. Hello, Mr. McClane. You're starting to annoy me. Oh my God, I love Hans Gruber because he was so refined, but he was so brutal at the same time. That's sometimes the scariest characters aren't the ones that's loud. It's the ones that talk very soft and very measured because you don't know what you're going to do. It's like when Sam Jackson was in Pulp Fiction and he killed the dude out of the flock of seagulls because he was talking to the other guy, and then all of a sudden he just pulled his gun out and killed the dude on the couch. You didn't see that coming. And it's the same thing with Hans Gruber. Like, he would just be so refined, and it's like, you're kind of fun to play with, Mr. McClane, but it's time for you to go. Oh my God. And then Alan Rickman, he ended up in the Harry Potter films and all that stuff. It's like, shout out to Alan Rickman. I would say of the 80s, the two top villains of that era was probably Alan Rickman in Die Hard and probably Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction. Because their characters, you just didn't see characters like them, especially the Glenn Close character. Oh, the Glenn Close character is fantastic. Oscar worthy. Should have won an Oscar for that. The fact that Glenn Close never won an Oscar is ridiculous. But yeah, those two characters are just scary because they seem like people you might know. Those are the scariest villains at times. And third, we got Bruce Willis. Man, Bruce Willis. I was a fan of Bruce Willis coming off Moonlighting. And it's funny when you see him in the beginning of the film when he's on the plane, you kind of forget because he's been around for so long. He had a Mickey Rourke vibe about him because Mickey Rourke came out first because Mickey Rourke was in Diner. But Mickey Rourke had this like smirk on his face. But Mickey Rourke was so cool. He got 9.5 weeks. Mickey Rourke was fantastic before the plastic surgery. But Bruce Willis had that same Mickey Rourke type smirk on his face back then. But Mickey Rourke, I love Bruce Willis and Moonlighting with him and Cybill Shepherd. The show was great until they hooked up. When those two characters hooked up, it's like the writers didn't know what to do with them after that. And then Cybill and Bruce really didn't get along behind the scenes. And because the show was so wacky, they kept on trying to top itself. Ally McBeal kind of figured that out, how to do the wacky thing later. But Bruce Willis and Cybill were great early on in Moonlighting. And so there was no expectations on Die Hard. Bruce just went off and made this film, and he was going to go back to Moonlighting, which he did. But by that point, Moonlighting was towards the end, and then he became a movie star. But the thing is, his career really didn't take off until later, because even though he did Die Hard and he did Die Hard 2, he still made some films that wasn't that great. Like, he had Bonfire of the Vanities with Tom Hanks. That was horrible. He had Hudson Hawk. That didn't quite work. I think he had was it Strike Force? He had the film with Sarah Jessica Parker. Love Sarah Jessica Parker. He had that film that he was on the boat. So after Die Hard, it wasn't like he became Tom Cruise or anything like that. But after Bonfire of the Vanities, that film flopped so bad with him and Tom Hanks. Both of them pivoted. Tom Hanks was like, I'm not going to do any comedy anymore. I'm just going to go straight drama. And that's where we get Philadelphia. And then Philadelphia on, we get Private Ryan. We get all these films where Tom is just completely serious. And then Bruce did the same thing. Like, he was kind of doing some kind of serious stuff. But then after Bonfire and Death Becomes Her, which is now a Broadway play, you would think Death Becomes Her with Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn would have been a hit, but it flopped. It turned into a cult hit, but he pivoted, and he said, I'm not doing funny stuff anymore. And this is where we get Pulp Fiction, and then later The Sixth Sense, and Armageddon, and there's another film. 12 Monkeys with Brad Pitt. Bruce Willis is him and Tom Hanks were the beginning of guys who were really funny, but they just tamped it down to be serious actors. John Hamm would do that in Mad Men. Bryan Cranston would do that in Breaking Bad. It's so amazing when you see Bryan Cranston go from Malcolm in the Middle of Breaking Bad. It's like that's two different dudes. And Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis was the beginning of that. But yeah, so a lot of stuff came off of Die Hard. So in this debate, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie, tell me why you think it's a Christmas movie, and tell me why not is a Christmas movie. I really want to hear why you don't think it's a Christmas movie. I gave you the first 10 minutes of the film. Even the black dude who was working with Hans Gruber, I think he had a Christmas hat on. It's just they were set in L.A. There was no snow on the ground. If your only argument is it's in L.A., I'm sorry. I gave you the facts. And also, if you've been to tell me about your wildest Christmas party in the office. Please protect the names because I don't want to get sued. But tell me about the craziest Christmas party you ever attended. Shout out to John McClane. It's nice to meet you, Mr. McClane. My name is Hans Gruber. I love Alan Rickman. Shout out to Reginald VelJohnson as well.